Welcome everybody to another episode of Life Chronicles and Deep Dives podcast. I'm here with Coach Cornelia.
All the way in Romania this
All
time.
the way. Yes.
At
Sometimes
least,
I don't ever remember. I'm just like, which one is it?
at least until Christmas, I'll be here.
Yeah. Is it nice over there for the holiday season coming up?
In Romania, I mean?
Hmm.
It depends on where you are. If you are at the mountains, in the mountains, it's very nice. In here, in the next to the Black Sea, it's not snowing that much lately. So yeah, but we have lights all over the city, and it's it's nice. Yeah, music, Christmas music everywhere.
Good. We had our first windstorm here, so it's been pretty interesting. Luckily for me, I just spent $7,000 US chopping down all the trees that are around the structures in my
Oh.
yard. Yeah, you haven't seen it, but I got basically a nature preserve in the backyard, so I had to chop the trees down. So that way they don't fall onto the thing. I guess the down south there was some big gusts and trees were falling down.
Yeah,
Well,
that's great.
everybody, yeah, it's I was worried about it, and that's what I spent all my money on this year. Well, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, don't forget to leave them in the comment section below during the podcast, so that way we can engage with you later on. Uh, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and check out our links in the description box below for our website. And I hope you enjoy this episode. Cornelia, this is your topic, so I'm going to let you start it off.
So I don't have a title for the topic, but where it came from is that today we've had I think one of the biggest churches in the world just finished and inaugurated.
Mhm.
And it's luxury. That's all I can say. It's huge and it's luxury.
Mhm.
And as I was watching TV, I was seeing that inside the church we had a lot of politicians coming, corrupt politicians. All of them were in the front row. While the normal people who donated for the church to be built were outside, they were put in like in, I'm not gonna say cages because it sounds weird. They were not cages, but they had a space specially for them put
Mhm.
outside. And I was thinking about this and about the fact that the people who donated the money were outside, while the rich and the corrupted one were inside the church, where it was warm, they had chairs, they could sit down, and so on. And this is how I came up with this topic about the difference between the church or the religion itself and the faith. We've
Mhm.
been talking about this before, and I told you it's for me, it's such a huge difference between these two, between the faith that I have in God and the church or the religion. And I'm not talking about the Orthodox one or the Catholic or any religion. I think it's a very, very big difference between what we believe inside ourselves and what we practice every day and the institution called church.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm curious about what you're feeling. I mean, I have an idea about what you think about it.
Yeah. No, so like I guess the hard part is for me is finding out what is the true like religion. So obviously we've talked about like the human need to have something higher, like to aspire to. Like we're all following the leader in some sense, but we all are looking for what that leader is when it comes to religion, right? Some people have found their leader and then they follow it. But where does it get corrupted by man? Because as we know, human beings are easily corruptible. And that's what they're leading with. So at what point in time does it become that? So that's where I think if you look at the religion and then you follow the religion, like if you're reading the Bible or you're reading the Torah, or you're reading, you know, Buddhist scriptures or whatever, Hindu scriptures, Islamic, I don't know what they call it, scriptures, I guess. If you're reading these things, right? And then you're like absorbing,
Human Quran, yeah.
right? What'd you say?
Quran.
Oh,
It's
the Quran. Yes, yes, yes. I don't know why it slipped out of my head. I didn't. And I think about it, and it's just like you could follow those things, but at what point in time are they tainted? Because there's so many different like transitions. of them, different renderings, different, like, I mean, even in Christianity, there's like LDS, there's 12th day, there's, Catholics, Protestants, Methodists, all of these different sects that like have their own
Mhm.
following,
Yeah.
and that, you fall, but where's the original? Where's the real deal? And then you wonder, why did we go away from the real deal into this newer version of these things, for convenience or for control? I think that faith can be good if it has like a moral backbone. So, faith in and of itself isn't necessarily bad. It's what people do with faith that I think leads to like the bad. I think you're going to post pictures of that church that you're talking about in the
Hmm.
podcast. That'll be great for people to see. I mean, when I look at that and I see the architecture of it, I thought that was absolutely great. Like, you can't see that in the United States of America. You see like colonial builds, but the like that old
Hmm.
European architecture, like you don't really see that too much in the United States. So I thought that was kind of cool. But you're right, the fact that the politicians are inside, but the people that donated to it are outside. That kind of like indicates what's really happening with it. You know what I mean?
Hmm. And also how big it is. So it's been such a huge amount of money you can imagine. Of course, it was the companies of the politicians who built it, but that's another thing. It is about, first of all, it is about building such a huge church. I guess they have a reason. I'm not sure which one it is, but I think they have a reason, like a spiritual reason. Um, but I'm thinking about the luxury, first of all. It's luxury all over the church. And I remember there is, in Matthew, there is a story where a woman comes and brings some oil to Jesus, the one that smells very beautiful, and she taints Jesus with it on his head, his hair, his feet, and the other ones are in shock and they say, "Why are you wasting this beautiful oil? So many poor people can benefit. We can sell it, and we can help so many poor people." And Jesus said, "You will always have the poor people. She's done a beautiful gesture for me. I'm here with you just for a little while." And I was thinking about this when I've seen the church. Maybe they did it in this idea, in honoring God with the best that we have. At the same time, I'm not sure that God really likes this kind of spaces, luxury and so on.
Mhm.
Even though he liked Solomon in the Old Testament, in the Bible, Solomon had a huge temple, a beautiful temple, and God loved it. God agreed with the temple, and I was thinking maybe God agrees with this one as well. Um, but there is such a big difference between this institution as a church and the belief in something. So you're talking about faith. When I'm saying faith and belief in something, I'm talking about anything. So
Mhm.
some people maybe believe in in a rock. Other ones maybe believe in alien beings. I don't know. It doesn't matter. We are always gonna search for something to believe in. You know, some higher self, maybe our own self. Who knows?
Mhm.
No. But the church, it's like an institution for control. It has its own good things because it is important to keep population under control. But at the same time, at least in Europe, you have this corrupt church who's getting a lot of money from the population. It's a lot of pedophilia scandals, as you well know. You never know the truth, you know. So I'm not sure that the institution is serving God at this point. Maybe before it was serving God more than it is today. I'm not sure they are thinking about what God wants or what God likes. Maybe they're thinking about what we like, what we want.
Mhm. So church, yeah, I think I agree with you. Like, church can be a control scheme in America. A lot of the churches the churches are tax free. They don't have property tax.
Yeah.
Obviously you have to pay the staff that work there.
Mhm.
They do go around with an offering basket, and then they go around, and collect. The
Yeah.
part about that is interesting to me is, to me, a church is a business. So,
Hmm.
while they say they're not a business, I mean, they are in the business of delivering to you their interpretation of what the Bible says. So,
Hmm.
and not all, it's not always bad. It's not always bad. What I'm saying is that's the business. You go there to get this. Now you don't have to pay, but a lot of times, you throw a couple bucks in the basket, or, whatever you have. Yes. Faith and belief. Yes, correct. I see that as, uh, we talked about, like, like looking for that higher person. Yes. And I think you're right, is that a lot of times people, when they're looking for that higher, next higher thing, outside of the human realm, they're actually like reflecting back to themselves, like what they perceive, like through their consciousness. Like they're talking to themselves, just up here. And that's okay. You know what I mean? So, church to me is a business. Faith and, religion in and of itself isn't always bad. It has been the cause of every single major
Hmm.
war on
Sure.
the planet.
Yeah.
But that's just, I watched a movie where people, this guy comes in. It's called John Carter of Mars, and like this guy gets transported to Mars through astral projection. So his body's on Earth, but a copy of himself ends up on Mars. And then there's this race of beings that like is trying to like control the political landscape on Mars when he arrives. They're called Therns. And the Therns are like, yes, we're well aware of humans. We're familiar with them. How do you think humans got on Earth in the first place? And then he basically just says, like, we manage the destruction of populations, because
Mm.
basically what happens is it's like people, humans, move from one place to the next. They spread, they form factions, right? So there's your different religions, and then they
Mhm.
create wars and fight each other over those different beliefs and stuff. So, it was interesting to see that, and then we're talking about it here, um, in a different context, but you can see that the corruption comes from man, not
Mhm.
not the religion, not the belief, the faith. It's what people
Yeah.
do with it.
Yeah. It's an instrument for some people. And I think it's there is a point where any corrupt person gets to a point where they just don't realize anymore what they are doing. I mean, they're in such a hunger for power that they are not realizing what's happening. They're not in contact with the others. For example, in church, right? You take the biggest one, the patriarch in Romania. I'm not sure if he's in contact with the normal people to
Mm,
ask them, how do you feel about this? And what do you need from the church? What do you want the church to do for you? Because this is what the church should do, right? Help
mhm,
people. I'm not sure he asked anyone in the last 10 years something about this. But what I'm sure of is he has a lot of people around who are always telling him that he's the best and he's
mm,
doing the best thing. So he's not in contact with the normal people anymore. The church should represent the human being in its. I don't care which form it is, which religion it is. It's for me, that we have this universal power who, how should I put this, who shows itself in different shapes and forms. You have Islam, you have Christianity, you have Buddhism, you have, so it's like this huge energy who is just differently seen by different people in different areas. And that's what God it is for me. So it's just one force, not
mm,
these separated ones. But the church likes to believe this, the church wants us to believe that. I mean, um, I'm not sure if we talked about this, but I think I talked with you about this. When the Jewish people are saying that God is only talking to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they think that they are the chosen ones. Everyone thinks they are the chosen ones, and nobody cares anymore about what God really is, which is love, tolerance, peace, and so on. Everyone just wants to be this um
Number one.
yeah, the best in this area.
Mm-hmm.
Which is crazy because no one talks about being together anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We are separated from you because we are the special ones. We are the chosen ones. God only talks to us. Hey, we are the best. We are superior to everyone else, right? I'm
Yeah,
not
I mean,
sure
yeah.
this force is thinking in these terms. But what does this mean? It means more money,
Mm-hmm.
more power, more control. That's how you can translate what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, so when you look at the like a church, this big church they're building, it's great, you know, it looks cool. But what does it actually
Mm-hmm.
symbolize, right? So we went into Islam a lot in the last podcast, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, Islam is coming in to Europe and they're like taking over churches and
Mm-hmm.
turning them into mosques. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so, well, what does that indicate? That indicates, you know, that that's a power play, right? So it's a different religion trying to impose power over another that's already established. And so you see each one is trying to get to the top. Each one's trying to get to be number one with the most people, the most followers. But right, it's just like a government. Church, in some cases, is or was still part of the government. So
Mm-hmm.
with the more people you have, the more power you have, the more money that you can say, oh, we need to give to the church, right? And then the people at the top, as in all cases, live the life of luxury and power. Whereas the people down below that are just giving, that are looking, and that's what I think I find to be the most annoying, disgraceful part about it is that when people at the top look down on people that are giving them stuff and then use that position of power to
Mm-hmm.
control those people in a way that does not benefit those people,
Mm-hmm.
but benefits the church.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where the problem is that you can have all of these nice things, all these perceived nice things. You can have churches, you can have religions, you can have, you know, whatever. But what it comes down to is who's going to do the right thing with it.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
what
get
we've
it.
seen time and
Yeah.
time again is that people generally will not do the right thing with it.
Yeah, unfortunately. You told me that your wife started reading the Bible after
Mhm.
Charlie Kirk died. I'm very curious about what she's gonna say when she feels ready to do it. Um, we are Christians in Europe. Most of us are Christians. So, what is the book that we should read? It's the Bible, right?
Mhm.
When I'm reading the Bible, so I've been reading the Bible many, many times. So, it is the best book someone can read. Even if you don't believe in anything, you have so many lessons to learn from there. But as a Christian, you're reading the Bible, right? Most of the Christians are not reading the Bible, are taking the words from the priest.
Mhm.
The priest is not really representing the Bible. There is a kind of interpretation from them. If you read the Bible, you in the Bible you will see what Jesus says. For example, with the prayer, right? Jesus says when you want to pray, go in your room, close the door, and just say the prayer,
Mhm.
right? The church says, "Come to us, give us money." And in Romania, I'm gonna tell you something. There are churches where you have to write the amount of money you put in the mercy box.
Mhm.
I was asking Anan if they are praying after the amount you've been given. I mean, if I'm giving less, are you praying less for me? And you're praying more for the rich ones? Or so, it's such a huge difference from the Bible, where Jesus, for example, asks disciples
Disciple.
watching the entrance in the church. He's asking them, who is giving the most? And there's been these people, the rich people, who are giving huge amounts of money, and there is one poor woman who's just giving one penny, whatever, you know. And they were guessing that one, that one, that one, and Jesus said, no, she did, because she didn't have more, and she gave everything to the
Mhm.
church, so she's giving the most. Uh, and then now you find these priests who are just looking on your paper to see how much money you gave to
Mhm.
the church, which I
Mhm.
find horrible,
Well, I
horrible.
did see a video a few days ago, and I think maybe this topic kind of like the universe, the energy, the power, kind of like maybe put that video on my feed so that way I could talk about it here. It was I don't even know what denomination church it was. I think it was Christian, but it was one of those, and you see it. They have like these big stage productions and lights, and it's yes, obviously you're going to this church, you want it to be nice, but it doesn't have to be like this huge Hollywood production, Broadway production. But it was, and inside the church, there was a lady and her son who had come up and about a donation that they had given, and I guess the church had asked for $2,000, 2,000 US from everybody, and
Wow.
the pastor, minister, whatever, was sitting there basically publicly shaming this lady and her son for only
Mm.
giving 1,200.
Wow.
And so and I was like, wow, like
Mm.
what, like how does that align with the Bible? Like, why would I even consider going to this church or consider coming back, or like why would I want to be around these people uh
Mm.
if all I had to give and I needed to make sure I had, childcare, food, lunches, school lunches, whatever, I needed to make sure I had all that done, and the church
Mm.
still said I didn't give enough when I gave as much as I had to give. uh but they were asking for this amount, and I don't know what reason they were asking for the amount. I stopped as soon as I saw him, like, he said, we said this, and like, when you can give, you just keep giving more and more. And as soon as I watched him started like digging into this lady, I just turned it off. I was like, that's the corruption I'm talking about right there.
Mhm.
That's the part that I don't like. Yes, you can pray in your room. You can, I mean, I have seen, people praying in the streets. So, I think in Europe, Christian prayer over in the streets is you're getting arrested for doing that.
Oh
At
no,
least
no,
like in the
you're not.
UK and stuff like that, because it's offensive
Mm.
to Muslims. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, the Christians are not praying in the street. So
Right.
the Muslims are praying in the streets, and you are not, as a Christian, you are not allowed to cross that area because it's their praying place.
Yes, but they have all these mosques and stuff, rather than that they've
Yeah,
just like
I mean,
procured
yeah,
that they go out in the
yeah.
street. Right.
Going back to the priest, so your story is horrible. I
Mhm.
hate this kind of priests. They are so greedy and they are very rich. Most of them, most of the priests are very rich.
I mean, I would
Uh,
say that some priests like make, I've read anywhere between, over 100K a year, 100,000
I mean,
US.
yeah, I mean, in the US, you have some pastors who worth millions of dollars. I've seen some guys trying to find one of them and trying to go and find them in the place where they live, where they have like an airplane, their own airport, they have their own farm, a huge farm with these animals, this priest, this pastor. So they are very rich, very greedy, and they just don't care about. I mean, imagine why would she go to the church? Maybe she needs a helping hand, maybe she needs a good word, maybe she's got problems and she needs to find God. She needs to find um, some like a treatment for her soul. And then you go to this church, you don't have the money for it, and they are public shaming you.
Mhm.
I mean, that's so far from what the church should be.
Mhm. And so, I mean, it's not always like that. So, like, there are some churches that do a lot of good. They do like food banks, they'll do money
Sure.
handouts,
Yeah.
you know, they give back to the community. They're watching out
Mhm.
for people. Like my mom makes hats for the church that then they'll hand
Mhm.
out to people that need them. Um,
Mhm.
like there's a lot of good that can come of these places, these organizations. Plus, you get the community of the people that you're aligned with. We talk about
Mhm.
like the different groups of people, and like even in groups of people there's groups of people. So then you go to these churches, you find your community, you can find new friends, you can find, and we're not just talking about regular church, we're talking about any temple, mosque,
Yeah.
whatever. And you can engage with like-minded people, and I think that's also good, right? So as long as we're not attacking somebody else for we can talk about it, but as soon as we like go to violence or taxation or something else against somebody because they don't align with our beliefs or values, or we try to force them to force them to convert, that's where it
Mhm.
becomes problematic, I think. So, or force them to give money. It was just sad to watch this lady up there because you could tell like she thought she was going to come up there and it was going to be a good thing, and then all of it,
Mhm.
and it just ends up being this jam sesh. And I guess that's where we kind of like cross the line of, is it still religion? It's under the name of Christianity, but when does it become a cult at that point? Where we have the shaming, we have the blind following, the alignment and stuff like that.
Mhm. Most of it, it's a cult from my point of view. Yeah, you have this community, like you said, in the church. The church has its own good parts, but the bad ones are just as many. And I think people should talk about this more because we can improve all the time. We
Mhm.
need this institution as a church. We need the church as a place to go and get together on Sundays or whatever, or at weddings and so on. At the same time, for example, in Eastern Europe, the church is not doing too much for the people. So everyone knows the church is rich, is involved politically, like they are manipulating people in churches who to vote with. Like they get an order at one point. You have to vote with that part. We decided that the church decided you have to vote with those ones.
Mhm.
And then the priests are coming in every church and telling the community you have to vote with those ones, which I don't think it's normal. I mean, it is not normal at all. Then this greediness, the need for more and more and more and more money. I don't see the money coming back to the community. At least in the Orthodox Church, for the Catholics, for example, they have these groups of young people helping the old ones. They're bringing them food, cleaning the houses. There is this sense of community. In the Orthodox Church, you don't have this sense of community. No one is helping anyone. They
Mhm.
just want money, and then maybe you got lucky and they say a prayer for you, you know?
Mhm. Mhm. So
Yeah.
it's like wielding power. It's like a
A
gamble.
lot of
It's
power.
almost like a
Yeah.
casino in that aspect, right? You
Hmm.
go to the church, you're gambling with, oh yeah, am I going to get a prayer today? Am I going to get is God going to look favorably on me today? Am I following enough rules? It's not necessarily rules in the Bible, it's rules of the church.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's very well said, Micah. It's the
So
rules of the.
I wanted to follow back with you about something you said. I mentioned to you that Kaya had started, after Charlie Kirk's death, she started to show interest in it. We I got her a cross with a little gem in it, a little crystal diamond. It's a diamond, a little cross with a diamond in it for her birthday. She's out there right now, reading, studying. She's got an app that some guy at work that she knows, like, gave her this Bible. He wrote all these verses and stuff in it, and she's got an app, and it'll like read. You can like read and follow along with the app.
Hmm.
It gives you like daily lesson plan or something to read.
Hmm.
But she's not going to the church. She's going, and the only thing that she is reading that's different, I would say, is that it's the New Living Translation. So it's
Mm-hmm.
more modern language. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
my
Yeah.
question is, it's like where, like, let's say if we were to go back to like, what is the original Bible and how far back do we need to go to find the original, what it would be, right? Before now, before the Old Testament was written as it is with clearer
Mm-hmm.
English, like what did it actually say? And that's another interesting part to me is because as everybody interprets things differently, that's where it starts to a lot of stuff can get lost over time from
Or
the
hidden.
original translations. Yeah.
Yeah, or hidden, Micah, because
Hidden.
most of the New Testament. Uh, so it's been a meeting years ago, hundreds of years ago, and they decided what to put in the Bible and what to take out of the Bible. Um, so the Bible is not complete like, the apostles have written it, or people from that time wrote it. They took some parts of it. People say this because you might know too much as a normal sheep of the community. You don't have to know so many things. So they took those parts out of the Bible. The Vatican has this huge library where they have all these secrets. You
Mm.
cannot get in, of course, as a normal person. So they took a lot of parts of the Bible, and this is why I'm saying that, yeah, it's the Bible is such a beautiful book, but I'm sure if it would have been complete, we would know so many things that, or so many answers to things that we are wondering about still, about God, for example. Who is God?
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's interesting you brought that up, the Vatican. So I want to dive into that. So like mystery stuff like that, the occult, right? Obviously that interests me, not because I'm interested in it because I want it to be a thing. I'm interested in it because it's hidden, it's secret, it's a puzzle to
Mhm.
me. So you're right. Like, what does the Vatican know? What do they have in their expansive library? What isn't being published? What isn't out there? Right? What do they have on demonology, their, like their exorcism, stuff like that. All of that's
Mhm.
interesting. Most of it's hidden. And you're right. For what reason? Again, it comes not down to what God wants us to know. It comes down to what the people in power want us to know about God,
Mhm.
right? And why?
Mhm.
Why is that such a big prevalent thing? And I would say, just like you said, it's got to be power, money,
Mhm.
politics, right? It's all wrapped into it. So at what point in time does it stop being religion and it starts obviously becoming that control scheme that I always call it? It's always a control scheme. But
Mhm.
wh who gets hurt by this the most? I would say that the normal parishioner, right? And what church? You got these big churches like you're gonna the one that you're talking about today, this huge church. And who gets hurt by that church being built? Like what particular type of person, right? Does God favor a big church like that? Does he look favorably on the people that can go to this church and look down on people that go to small church? Honestly, I think that if I found a smaller church,
Mhm.
once I vetted it to not be like cultish, right? I would say that you have a higher probability of a smaller church being more close to what God's teachings would be rather than a bigger
Mhm.
church. Because soon as the bigger you get, the more entertainment value needs to go up, the more production value needs to go up, and the more you need to deliver, which also means the more money you need to bring in. It's like a government. The government can never get smaller per se. It can only get bigger. And how does it do that? It collects more people to pay more taxes. The church needs to expand to collect more offerings. Same thing.
Yeah, and when I've seen of a very important person in the United States, I'm not gonna say his name, but he's one of the most important. I think he's more important than Trump. And he was talking about going to Vatican and meeting the devil. I mean, the real one flesh and blood, living in Vatican City. And
Mm,
I was, what? You know? And he was, of course, he was in shock when he saw that thing, and he looked around. He said that everything got so cold all of a sudden. The priest looked at him and asked him, "Do you realize who that is?" And he said, "Is it who I think it is?" And they said, "Yes, it is." And him talking about this, then you maybe are wondering if this bad part of things is also a part of what God wants to know about itself, or this energy wants to know about itself.
mhm,
This fight between good and bad, you know,
mhm,
about the Vatican City and demonology. So I recently seen a movie, The Chief Exorcist from Vatican,
mm,
uh, doing some exorcist. He had a very bad case and working on it. That priest had almost 1,000 cases of exorcism,
mhm,
and they are still saying that this is not like officially they are saying that this is impossible,
mhm,
you know. Uh, uh, so yeah, I think there's so many secrets they are keeping for themselves. I'm not sure it's because they're on the right side or on the side.
mhm,
I'm not sure if they're trying to protect us or not. Maybe
mhm.
it can be as well, right? To protect us from knowing things
Right.
that yeah, might.
Well, I mean, so is that really protecting us in a certain case, right? If we're all supposed to be equal, we're all supposed to be, whatever. And this is the way feel about everything. There should be no secrets, right? Like, I mean, if we're supposed to be the church, the people are the church. Without the people, there is no church, just a building, right? Why can't we know what the truth is? And that also brings to me like what is real? Is reality just what we see and what we, experience with our senses? Is it something more? So, and when it comes to religion, that's where the more comes into play when it comes to that unknown factor. And that would bring in the possibility of demonology. But then if we look at the binary way that Christianity is set up, is Islam set up the same way? Is Buddhism set up the same way? We're talking about all of these different religions based off of location. You're right that let's say they've never interacted with each other. For
Mhm.
instance, when Christians came across the sea, the ocean, to America and engaged with the native people that lived here, they had no idea what the Bible was, but they were living
Mhm.
without it. They had
Yeah.
they formed their own religion, right? And that also led to a lot of tribalism and death and whatever. But so when you look at that, we're always looking for what's more. And I wonder, we've talked about how there's like oh, I don't remember what it's called, but there's always that search for that higher part. And I wonder if that's like wired into our brain as part of a mechanism for survival of in some way. Because when like let's say monkeys are our nearest relative, even if you don't believe in evolution, something very similar. We're very similar. um, when you look at them, they don't have religion, right? Animals don't have religion. They live fine. They live by the law of nature, which is just,
Mhm.
you know, eat, breed, and wake up the next day. So, uh, like, why do we have religion? And I wonder if a long time ago, before in each population where these religions popped up, and I'm like pausing because I'm trying to find the right words for this because maybe there was one person that was bad. I mean, obviously there's going to be bad populations everywhere. Somebody that's going to be, oh, I could take advantage of somebody this way, or I could do that, do this. And
Mhm.
the way that they thought to do it was to create a religion that has good and bad. So
Mm.
then they can, you know what I mean? They can control the population through fear. Oh, if you do this, then, this is bad. I think, Christianity came about as a way to control population spread. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think, like Buddhism was philosophical in nature, right? So it's different in some degree from Christianity. Islam different, Judaism different,
They're
Confucian,
all different. Yeah, they're all
Confucian
different. Yeah,
different, right?
they are all
Native
different.
Americans different,
They're all different, but they're doing the same thing somehow, controlling the population,
the
which is
population.
not really bad. So it's not really a bad thing. Um, so you say that maybe someone came up and invented this religion. I believe more like they used. I mean, I believe that. So let's go on my perspective on things. You have this huge energy, and we are each a part of it, right? And
Mhm.
then we are always going to have this need to get back to the source, or to
Mhm.
find the source or to
Right.
contact it and somehow, right? And some people decided to use this for themselves.
Hmm.
Yeah, so you have this need to believe in something, and everything is historically accurate, like with Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha. There is real evidence that they existed, so it's not an invention of anyone. So they
Correct.
really existed, right? And then someone said, okay, I'm going to use this for myself, or the church said, I'm going to use this for me, for the church,
Mhm.
for the institution. Or maybe, just maybe, they said, okay, let's do what's best for people and hide this part of things which might not help them in some way, which I it might be a possibility, but I think we would be so much more evolved now if we knew what they're hiding.
Hmm.
So there is this saying that maybe they're hiding for our own good, but at the same time, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think we would be much more evolved and in a much better relation with God, whatever God it is,
Hmm.
in a much better relation. Until now, if you watch to Islam, so if you're watching this religion from outside, you can see so clearly that it's manipulation.
Hmm.
There is there is such a huge impossibility to if you kill yourself with a vest, with a bombing vest, to
Hmm.
get in heaven and have 10 virgin girls.
I think it's 72, but yes,
How many? 72. Okay.
72.
So when you're listening to this
Hmm.
story, you realize that it's such an impossible thing, but still those people are believing it.
Hmm.
Because why? They are manipulated.
They're kept from like realizing their full potential. I think you're on the right track because they're being held back by
Yeah, held
their
back, yeah.
belief system. Yeah.
Mhm. So if I'm watching at Islam and I'm realizing this, that is a manipulation, maybe the Buddhists are watching to the Christians and are seeing the same thing in our case, and
Hmm.
so on, just moving around between religions, and we can see that the others are manipulated. Why shouldn't we be as well, right?
Hmm.
So it is this possibility that we all are manipulated and we are very far from the word of God. Even so, if you're reading the Quran, right?
Hmm.
You will never find in Quran anything bad about Christians. The
Hmm.
Quran is such a beautiful book, and I'm so sorry that it's misinterpreted because these extremists are doing it. But in the Quran, you will never find anything bad about Christians. Muhammad says, "Be in peace with the Christians. Get married with Christian women." So there's nothing against it. When they are trying to manipulate their people, they're saying, "Kill Christians, kill Jews."
Hmm.
You know?
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's this manipulation. It's what I feel it is at this point. I don't know what are they are fighting for. Control, power, the fight between good and bad. I don't know
Hmm.
what's the stake here, but there is a stake.
Well, I think that's one of those things that time will tell. Over time, I think you'll either see religion disappear for
Mm.
politics, right? So politicians will force religion out. Um, or they'll usher in, in Europe's case, it looks like it's going to be Islam will be the next dominant religion
Mhm.
that will be governing because, the Islam is also a political thing. I don't want to dog too much on Islam in this episode. Think I did enough of that in the last episode. And it's not that I don't like Muslims or Islam. It's I don't like people hurting other people in the name of religion. I don't like innocent people dying because somebody believes something different than other people. I don't like when people do. I don't like when Christians do it. I don't like
Mhm.
when, I mean, Buddhists don't really do it, but I don't like when anybody is hurting somebody else. I don't like when innocent people die. I don't like when children die. I don't like when people are raped. I don't like when people are killed. Anything like that. In the name of
Mhm. Yeah.
right? It's okay to defend yourself, but it's not okay to attack somebody else, right? And when we as humans are being led to attack other people because of religion, and I think that's one of the big issues I have with it. Like I said, it's created all of the wars and differences of
Mhm.
religion. What are we doing? Is it really that good to have this thing around that's causing all of this death? Or is it the people that are doing something bad with it? And I think that's it, because as we know, humans are easily corruptible and they're easy to corrupt other people. They're easy to take the path of least resistance. They're easy to take the path of taking advantage, and they're easy for greed, the sins, right? So, I mean, like uh, whatever makes your life easier, gets you more money, makes you more powerful, you're likely to take that route.
Mhm.
It's very hard to resist the temptation to do this.
Yeah.
And even let's say you start out in a good place and you think that you're going to be good throughout everything. At some point in time, you'll have advisors, you'll have this, you'll have that, and those people may not be good. So you might start taking advice, you might start doing the wrong thing. And then
Mhm.
once you do the wrong thing, you have to cover it up by doing other wrong things and lies. And, it just, it's like a huge snowball effect. And all of a sudden, you went from being good to being bad. And I'm not saying this happens to everybody. What I'm saying is that it has the potential to happen to everybody. And I think that's my problem with religion is the potential. And maybe I need to have more faith in humanity. I don't know. Um, because I see it every day. I see it. There's a potential for somebody to do the right thing, but they've done the wrong thing in the name of religion.
It is the never-ending fight between good and evil. You will always have this, and maybe it would be boring to have only good, and it would be horrible to have only evil. Maybe this is how things are coming together. At the same time, I feel that, of course, religion is a good thing. It's very nice to believe in something, to have your community, to go and pray to something when you have a problem, and so on. At the same time, I think that religion should help us evolve more. So most of the people I know that are very, very like, so people who are going to the church all the time, are speaking with the priest all the time, they are in the kept in a place where you cannot raise your head higher. You cannot think of anything else than I'm telling you. If I'm telling you to believe this, you have to believe
Mm,
this. You're not
okay.
allowed to ask questions. You're not allowed to dress different. So they are kept in there because the church knows if we run away from their teachings and go back, for example, in Christianity, to the Bible, you're gonna find something different. Because
Different.
Jesus never wanted to manipulate anyone. He was tolerant, he was loving, he was representing a loving God. Uh, they're telling us God is gonna punish you.
Mm,
Never, never. God is never gonna punish anyone. So when Jesus came, he came with his words of hope and love and
mm,
tolerance and peace. So different from what the church is doing most of times. And if you think
right.
about crusades, how many people died in the crusades, and how
Mm.
many people or how many women were killed because they were witches, do you know how they were probing if a woman was a witch or not? The church, how they were deciding
I mean,
this?
I've seen movies, but nothing.
Wow. So they were throwing a woman in the water, and if she
Mm,
was trying to swim and managed to swim, then she was a witch, and they would kill her, burn her, actually.
right.
That's how they decided that a woman was a witch. So this was in the name of Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that's very hard to swallow, you know.
Yeah, I mean, so they use fear and manipulation. What we call that in
Hmm.
psychology is called a sphere of influence. So a lot of people in these churches are under the sphere of influence, right? They can't
Hmm.
break free from it.
Hmm.
And that's another problem that I have with religion is that if you can't think outside of it and you can only think inside of it,
Yeah.
then you are captured by that thought process, right? And I don't like to be captured. I don't like to be controlled. So I don't try to get stuck like that. Um, and the witch thing, I'm glad you brought that up. We've talked about this a couple other times. I think that's crazy. I think it was absolutely insane for them to do that. But like, I mean, you're talking about the Bible and punishment. Yeah, we hear all these stories about Jesus being this kind of person. The only time I think God did anything really bad was when he did the flood, right? The flood turned somebody into salt or
In the
something.
Yeah, so you have the Old Testament where God was, let's say this, in my opinion. So I'm always following what I believe because it's hard for me to talk about what people are. But I think
Right.
let's say that in the Old Testament, God was like this form of energy was at the beginning, still knowing itself, you know, and it had this human part of revenge, being revengeful, being mean, and so on. So yeah, it was the flood. It was the Sodom and Gomorrah because they were sinners, and God decided to put it on fire and so on. And
Right.
then Jesus came with this message of love, like it was an evolved God.
Hmm.
So God became a higher conscience with this message of love, peace, tolerance, and so on, which they're not following anymore. So we are not following this only by saying it, you know, but in fact, you're not seeing it anymore. And we haven't seen it in the last 2000 years. You haven't seen peace. I've never seen, for example, when the war in Ukraine started, I've seen in churches priests praying that Ukraine wins. Other priests were praying that Russia wins. What are
Hmm.
you doing? Why aren't you praying for the war to stop?
Hmm.
Right? Shouldn't
Right.
you pray for the war to stop? Wouldn't you
Yeah.
want to have peace? Why do we want to pray for some? Why do we want to take sides?
Hmm.
Right? So in the New Testament, when you read the messages from Jesus, you're gonna find this loving, peaceful God who's talking about forgiving the others, turning the other cheek as well, and so on. You're not going to find the mean things in the Old Testament you would find in the Old Testament. So it's two very different things. And this is when the Christianity started to grow when Jesus came.
Hmm.
And more people found themselves in the message of love and peace and tolerance, which we should follow. And then when you go to the church, you're not seeing this message.
Yeah, so with that, I think it's interesting. Like, have you ever heard what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? So the conundrum still, oh yeah. So this conundrum kind of sticks with me with religion, right? So
Mm.
if we are in God's image, but we didn't come before God, God made us, where where is that, right? I mean, you see, and this is where that collection of people kind of kicks in. You see churches now, like in America, portraying Jesus as like some white guy with a beard, pasty white
Mm.
guy with a beard, or you know what I mean? Well, he will probably look more Islamic than you
Sure,
know
yeah.
we would
Yeah.
normally expect, right? So and I think that's interesting, like the different interpretations, how they want you to see things. And
Yeah.
when you succumb to a belief system, I should say, when you succumb to a belief system, and you can't escape it, that is when your mind is captured. So,
Mhm.
so the conundrum is, did God come first or did man come first? And if God was first, how does he look like man? And how would we know that what he looked like, right? Because like I guess if we look
Mhm.
at biblical angels, right? Like they're just like some gaggle of eyes with wings and light and stuff. Like what's the where how did that change to something else now? It's interesting. It's all interesting to me, and I'm sure that our viewers will, maybe take some time to like think about what they're doing with their religion, what they're doing with their faith. I'm not saying to give up on it. What I'm saying is, uh, be open to thinking, deep thought, and diving into why we're doing something, or why somebody's telling me to do something, or why does this exist, and how does it exist
Mhm.
in different contexts, right? Obviously, I personally don't like control. So I have my own beliefs, and our viewers will have their own, and that's okay. And I hope that they continue uh, to do that.
Yeah, just give me a second to say some things. First of all, being moral is not meaning that you're religious, or the other way. Being religion doesn't make you a moral person unless you're reading the Bible, if you're Christian. But the moral things, you can bring them from the philosophy. That's where you find the morals of society. And that's one thing. Because many believers, or these uh, exaggerated believers, think that they know the truth and no one else does it. Only they have the truth. It's not like that. The second one, we know what Jesus looked like. If you know the Shroud of Turin, they made so many tests
Mhm.
on it, and they managed to make like I don't know how it's called in English, like that thing that um, tries to show his face when
Mhm.
you build something. I don't know how it's called. Yeah, so they build it. So you're right. Jesus was more like brown skin, like from that area of Palestinians, Arabic area, you know. So he's not like they're painting it with the blue eyes and blonde
Right.
many times and so on. So this is what every time I'm trying to change my mind or do something, I'm always trying to find some historical proof of what I'm believing in, or something to vibrate with myself. Try to see what resonates with yourself, and don't be afraid of God.
Those are amazing closing words, and I do appreciate you bringing this topic because I was like, man, what are we going to talk about today? We hit pretty hard last week. I was like, I don't know what we're going to do. You sent me some pictures of a church. I think it's going to turn out great. Everybody I hope you've made it through this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And like we said, like we're not trying to tell you not to do something. Um, my main thought is to think about stuff and to
Mhm.
question, motives, why, how, all these things. And that's part of the deep dives that we have on this podcast is we're not necessarily slamming it, is that we're trying to find the truth, and it's a constant search for the truth. And we have to dive through layers and layers of control, humanity, people, politics, and all of this stuff to find that control. And I think you said it best, going back to the source. We're looking for the source. We're looking for the truth. And I think that's what this podcast is really about, is when we talk about stuff, that's what we're doing. Please don't forget to leave comments in the comment section below. Please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and then check our links in the description box. And we'll see you in the next one.